Find us on Facebook, email us at head2headpinball@gmail.com, or go to our website at head2headpinball.com.
Welcome again to the Head2Head Pinball podcast. You're here with me, Martin, and my co-host as always,
Ryan C. How you going, mate?
I am very well. I've had a very busy pinball week. How about you?
Yeah, a bit of overlap. I've been pretty busy as well, but we've been doing stuff together, haven't we, Marty? We've been going head to head, a couple of battles.
We actually have some of them planned, some of them just coincidence.
And a few funny stories as well.
I know. But before we get into that, how can people find us?
Head2Head Pinball on Facebook. It's head, the number 2, head pinball. H2H Pinball on Twitter, Instagram, which we'll never post on, but we're still going to keep on mentioning it. And head2headpinball.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever Stitcher is. If you have an Android phone, download an app like Podcast Republic and subscribe to us. It's really easy. If you jump on our website, there's a whole array of buttons underneath the episodes. Click it on your phone, and your phone should be able to figure out how to kind of do the rest. And that's the easiest way to listen to us, is have the podcast automatically downloading. That way you don't need to check.
Yeah, or go to head2headpinball.com, our website, and you can listen to the episode from there as well.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, I believe I managed to get you to a comp this week. Is that true?
That's right. You invited me to a competition, and then you promptly closed the competition down forever. What's going on, Marty?
Well, let's get into your enjoyment, because I did ask you after the night, did you have a good time? And you said, well, I'm not going to tell you until the podcast. So I've been really keen to know whether you had a good night.
Okay. I did and I didn't. It's like in the middle. I'm still unsure if I like the whole tournament thing, and I'll try to explain myself. One, when pinball machines are down and they're mine, I get anxiety. I need to, especially when it's on site, I need to fix the issue straight away.
Yeah.
And half an hour before I was there, I got a message from a friend saying, "Hey, the Hobbit's all the lights are messed up and they're not working," and I've been having this kind of temperamental issue, and I thought I'd fixed the issue, but apparently I hadn't, and it's been 2 weeks since I've been there, and so when I kind of got there, I was already in like a bit of a jittery mood, and everyone started saying hello to me, and I'm really bad with names, and you've somehow made me famous, Marty, and I was like, "Oh, hey, how you going?" And I knew everyone's name by the end of the night, but I was a bit kind of overwhelmed. I can't handle the fame. No. Playing pinball, yeah, it was good, but I find myself, because I don't know the people, I find myself like, I don't hate them, but I want them to lose their ball, and I'm just, in my head, I'm like, lose ball, lose ball, lose ball, lose ball, drain, drain. Every time it hits the slings, I'm like, yes, straight in the out lane. And I don't like, I wish I could be more relaxed about it and be more confident in my abilities and say, well, it doesn't matter how well they play, because I'll be able to counteract that with my awesome pinball skills. But because I'm still pretty new to it all, I need to rely on people playing bad to beat them, I think. So
we kind of all do that. I mean, we're very friendly and we do like each other's company, but you can't help but be standing there watching someone play and just think to yourself, go down the guts, down the guts, down the guts, down the sides. And it doesn't happen when you really want it to happen.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it didn't help that when I walked in there, I was behind Daniel Luth, and he tried to death save on The Walking Dead, and literally like kicked me in the shin so hard. If that was a little kid, that little kid would be in hospital. Like it was literally, he must have given some people some serious injuries in his day. But no, it was a good night, and it was definitely probably the best experience I've had. I have, it wasn't the very first tournament I've been to, but I hadn't been for about a year or so. And the last time it was so bad that I hadn't gone back since. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next comp, whatever that will be.
And do you know where you ended up on the night?
I do. Well, the format was a 3 strikes tournament.
Correct.
And I brought along a friend who's a bit of a pinball noob, and the software somehow miraculously matched me up with him on Tron. So that was my favorite game almost, because I wouldn't even care if I lost, because it would give my friend a bit of an introduction to winning in a pinball comp. But I didn't, and I was relaxed. I knew the game. I've played the game before, and that was good. But the next game after that was Playboy, and that's when I was raging. The flipper was slipping, and I have no idea what the rules are on Playboy.
They're not that complex.
They're not that complex, but it's like the guy. Let's spoil it a little bit. The guy who won the tournament was like on fire the entire night, and the only game he lost was on like a non-D&D game, which proves my point that like games that made before the 90s suck, because like he shouldn't have lost any game that day, and he lost. I can't remember who he lost to, but it was on Big Deal. It was like an EM. I think so. I ended up coming sixth, I believe, out of 20 people. Is that right?
That's correct.
Well, equal six. I mean, there's a couple of people that.
Well, let's just say sixth.
Let's just say six. It sounds better.
No one's going to check.
Geez, the elimination, how I got eliminated was it was almost rigged, Marty. What's going on?
How did you get eliminated, Ryan? Can you please explain to the listeners what actually happened?
Okay. Well, I was on two strikes in round 7 or so, and you were on two strikes. And
that's correct.
Match play software matched us up together head to head. It's really random, but it matches up head to head while we're both on two strikes on what game was this? Supersonic. Which I've never played before. Sure. And I'm sure you've only probably played a couple of times, but you told me you were quite nervous, Marty. Is that right?
Do you know what? I was really nervous because I figured if you won, giving it away, you would just go on and on and on about it, whereas I would be incredibly pleased that I beat you, but I'd have to be on this podcast being all nonchalant, like, oh yeah, you know what, it's just another game. But I needed to beat you.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I was almost less nervous about that. I mean, the game before I played my Spider-Man, like the game that I've owned for almost a year, against a friend who's like never, another guy in the Melbourne Silver Ball League that I don't think he's ever played Spider-Man before, and he beat me, and that was almost more embarrassing to me, because like if you own a game and it's your machine and you've set it up a certain way, then you got no business losing against someone who's hardly played Spider-Man before. So, but it was a good experience. I did enjoy it, and it's a pity you're closing down the entire thing, Marty.
Yeah,
is it because of me?
Yeah, it is. I figured it can't get better than beating you. No, look, and you know what? I did post on the Melbourne Silver Ball League site, which is now called Melbourne Silver Ball for a reason, that when I originally set it up, I set it up as a selfie league almost straight after that format became very popular, and it was after I came back from Arcade Expo and played it Never Drains in Southern California, or in Disc, and I just really liked the format. And as much as I do enjoy competing, what I really wanted to do with the league was to actually bring new players into tournaments in Australia. I think over time probably the community hasn't expanded as much as I would like, so that was the vehicle for me to do. So I put a lot of my time into it, a lot of money into it, a lot of advertising, and it was a selfie league with a match play format. And then just the venue couldn't really sustain opening on Sundays, which is fair enough, so I had to do another format, which was the 3 strikes format, which is a fun format, but it's not really what I wanted it to be, and it probably doesn't attract as many, IFPA points. So, some of the better players sort of weren't coming as often. So I thought, you know what, let's just focus on Melbourne Silver Ball streaming, the podcast, and I'll use those vehicles just to continue to promote pinball, and then that it's still going to be fun for me. And you know what, I did get a lot of messages after, people sort of a bit gutted that it's closing because it was their favourite. It doesn't mean that it won't come back. It just means that for now it's not the time, so I can focus on other things. And one of the things that we will talk about tonight is some of the tournaments and competitions that are coming up. So, still active.
Yeah. And should we go through what we're doing on the episode? So we're just going to talk about the news a little bit later on that's going on, and we've got a really nice interview that we recorded a couple of days ago with Jimmy Nails, who is the Netherworld owner. Is that right, Marty?
Yeah, he is, and we spoke of him, I think, on the first podcast, where we talked about how he has created some new software, tournament software for the Flip Frenzy format, and he goes into that, which is really good.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the podcast length and it looks a little bit long, there is a half an hour interview stuck in the middle of the podcast, and we got a lot of mail, which we get to as well, but what else did we get to this week, Marty? There was a bit of pinball streaming on Sunday night.
So, if you remember our last episode, I talked about how I really didn't like the Simpsons Pinball Party. I've just not been able to get into it, and you said, well, that surprises you because, it's a Joe Boucher game and it's Keith Johnson rules, and it's an awkward So if I like Wizard of Oz, I should like the Simpsons Pinball Party. That's the formula, right? If then equals.
That's right.
All right. So
now, I already know you haven't told me if you like it, but I can read your body language, Marty.
What do you
like
think?
Simpsons, Marty?
No, I really don't. I don't
think anyone liked The Simpsons last night.
No.
Oh my god.
Do you know what? It was lots of fun. But let me tell you my problem with it. My problem is I felt it was all just get it into the garage, get it into the couch. Garage, couch, garage, start mode, get multi-ball, couch, garage, couch. Was I missing something there?
There's like a million other things going on.
Yeah, but they seem arbitrary.
Well, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to get to the super duper mega extreme wizard mode, then you need to concentrate on that stuff. If your goal is to get to alien invasion, then you're doing one thing: shoot the right orbit, start the mode. Shoot the right orbit, start the mode, which is what I did in the last ball to kind of show alien invasion, which ended up being a fizzer because the ball was stuck in a weird spot and the countdown timer didn't go. So, but we had a bit of a head-to-head battle, Marty.
We did. I knew you were going to bring this up.
So I had a 6-pack of Duff beer, which tastes like acid. I'm not a big beer drinker, but it doesn't taste great. And I've had it in my fridge for a while. And every time I offer it to someone, they say no. But we force people to drink it if they came last on a 4-player game. And of course, Marty is a pretty good player, and he was wedged in with some others, and he was never going to come last. So apparently, you've never drunk beer before, Marty. In your
this is correct.
Never ever.
No, well,
when you're 15 years old.
I've never had more than a sip, and I've definitely never had a beer in my life. That's fact.
Yeah, and Duff beer is probably the worst beer to have as a first beer, but we went head to head, and you faltered a bit under the pressure. And
let's just say I had my first ball was a house ball, let's call it. Second ball, I may have had 1 or 2 flips, and it was that left out lane was an absolute killer. So I think I was probably even under 1 million points on going into third ball, and you were on about 30 million at that stage.
Yeah, something like that.
And my last ball, it was progressing quite well. It was a long ball. I was doing all right, and then gone.
This is the thing with Simpsons. I mean, you have to shoot for the right thing. You can have the longest ball time and nothing can happen. You think things are progressing, but it's not because you don't know the rules. And I think that's the problem with with last night. We did 3 hours of streaming, and I told you guys kind of the basic rules. But unless you're shooting for the right thing, Simpsons is just full of pain. Unless you can look at the flashing lights and look at Homer and laugh at all the call-outs. You really have to understand a decent amount of the pin to appreciate it. And, maybe another day, Marty.
Look, I don't know. It just didn't excite me. I got it, and I remember saying to you at some stage through the night, and someone asked me, what do I think of it? And I said, you know what, I kind of get exactly what you were saying. It really does feel like, almost like was a narrow body, standard body was with a different theme. So I kind of understood that, but I didn't get it, and I love Simpsons. So yeah. Anyway, the summary of this whole thing is that I had to scull a Duff beer, and it was just repellent. It was the most horrendous thing I drank, and I then started eating chocolates and lollies and other drinks. And I just remember an hour later thinking, oh, I've still got that aftertaste of Duff beer. It was vile. So there you go.
The good news of the night is you got my wife a little bit drunk, and
yes.
Yeah, good times were had.
Look, I'm just going to say the best thing is your wife drunk and then her saying things on camera. It's just the best thing.
So dirty. Oh my God. She's not like that normally, but you literally just put her in a room of guys, give her one shot, and this only happened twice, but it's just like, I want you to come over again, just so my wife can be dirty, pretty much.
It's really funny.
Anyway.
And so what else happened this week? Well, my Hobbit has finally come home, which is good. It's been out on site at the Golden Fleece for, I would say probably a month now. And it's come back home. They're doing some moving around of some machines, and something's coming in. I'm not going to tell what it is because Jeff will kill me, and I want them to reveal it when they do. So it's come home, and I'm glad it has. I've missed it. I put it out on site because I just kind of wasn't really feeling it, but I remember playing it there a couple of weeks ago and just thought, oh, you know what? I really don't want it to be out here. It is the what is it? The special edition, the gold Smaug edition, and so I brought it home. It's only got 1,000 plays on it, and it still just feels different.
Isn't it weird that, like, when you don't, because I've got my Hobbit on site as well, and when you don't play it and you kind of like, you catch some kind of feedback, you might be reading Pinside or something, and you hear people kind of telling you what they don't like about the machine. Sometimes it does kind of like filter in your head, and you're like, yeah, I guess the Hobbit isn't that. And then you play it and you're like, what? Like, no, this actually is a fun pinball, and this actually like isn't slow and floaty, like, and you know, people complain about the rules. Well, I know the rules, so you know, I'm not confused when I look at the LCD screen. So it's been a weird experience for me as well, because I had the same thing, and even with the issues of mine when I was playtesting it during the competition, trying to fix the issue on the fly, it was awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think it's a machine that needs to be set up properly, because if it is slightly flat, then it will be a bit floaty. So set it up nice and steep. Take out your center post. First thing I'll say to everybody, take out the center post. Doesn't need it. And move your outlanes a bit, because they're also a bit forgiving. Tweak the rules. I think the standard rules are pretty easy, so tweak those.
It's very forgiving. I mean, you have to take off addable in multi-ball, because you can stack multi-balls, and you can do, you know, you can bring a mode into multi-ball. If you have all of those things plus addable, then it's almost like you have 3 addaballs. If you've got 3 multi-balls going on, that means you have 3 addaballs. It's too much. So you can set out to be more brutal if you're into that stuff. But if you want to see how a really nice Hobbit playing, check out Carl D'Angelo's his IE Pinball on YouTube, and his Hobbit plays like no one else. I actually messaged him and I was like, "How do you get your Hobbit to play so fast?" He's like, I just crank the legs up and this and that. I couldn't get it perfected, but it was pretty close. So
you really do need to tweak it to get it playing really well. And it's lots of fun. So it's now home. The other bit of news for me, we talked during the week. I know we mentioned last week about the DMD for Jurassic Park, and so I decided that I'm in. I'm going to get it. I'm going to bring my Jurassic Park that's on site at the moment. I'm going to bring that home, put a colour DMD in it. But the big question I was asking you was, do I get LED or the LCD? And I still don't know. What do you think?
It depends on what kind of look you're going for. I think a lot of people that buy the a DMD for like an old Stern or a Bally Williams game, they quite like the LED because it is quite bright, and it kind of looks more traditional. Whereas an LCD is not as bright. You can increase the brightness on it, but they're not LEDs. It's an LCD screen, and you kind of can't see it from an angle. If you look at the pinball from an angle, an LCD is definitely not as bright, where the LEDs are kind of bright from all angles. But I personally prefer the LCD on everything simply because you've got more options. Because some games you can use dots, you can use dots XL. Dots XL pretty much just means dots, but it just makes the dots a tiny bit bigger, so the gap in between the dots is smaller, and that's what I use on all my pins. But some people like the high res, which is basically kind of joins the dots together. Okay. And on some games it looks horrible. On some games it looks really good. I was actually going to do it on Simpsons yesterday because it looks decent on Simpsons and Lord of the Rings. But I think you just have more options, and I think it's $30 more. But I mean, they created it, and it fits in games that usually doesn't fit in, like Circus Voltaire was never going to get a color DMD if they didn't go that way. So I don't think it's a labor of love or anything. I don't think he did it just for that game, but it's just personal preference, really, and saving $30. Yeah.
Well, look, the reason why I decided to go with it was that they Color DMD did have like a preview video of some of the animations, and like we were saying last week, if they're static images, like you were saying with Twilight Zone, it's maybe not great, but when there are animations, it looks great. The animations on this look fantastic. They look great. So, again, proving that it probably is best served when you've got animations or video clips from the movies that they're colorizing. Yeah,
I mean, all pinball machines kind of have animations, but some of them are kind of like, not as, they don't move as much as others. So, yeah.
Well, it didn't matter in the end because they've only released, I'm looking up now, they only released the LED version for Jurassic Park and not the LCD. So, that's in, I will purchase, I will click away.
Well, the Australian dollar is still good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and should we move on to the news, Marty?
Well, because there was another thing that happened over the weekend, wasn't there?
Was there?
Well, that's our news.
Okay, yes. Great segue.
What do you reckon, hey? Smooth.
Yeah. So on, I think it was Friday in the US and Saturday morning at 9 a.m. here. And it's weird because they always say a time, but it seems to happen an hour earlier.
Yeah.
So lucky I was up early. And Stern, Jack Danger, Dead Flip was streaming Star Wars. Well, it was the premium. It wasn't the alley.
Yeah.
But when you're have an eagle eye view of the playfield, it's the same thing except for I think 2 plastics. So it's the same game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to finally see what everyone's been waiting for. Does the hyperdrive redeem the game's kind of lackluster response in the community? And no, okay. We haven't talked about this.
We haven't.
No.
Look, it looked good. Look, my initial impressions are, I think the lighting looks really good. I think they've improved the lighting somewhat. The hyperdrive looks fun, and and everyone keeps talking about this. It's being like the supercharger on Getaway. For me, it reminds me more of NASCAR with the ball going around the outer of the playfield. I think it has that more of an effect, but faster. It looks great, but I don't know. I don't know whether that was the excitement that I thought it would. I don't know whether it was the redeeming feature that I thought it would be. What do you think?
This is the thing. I mean, if you've never played Getaway before and you watch a video of Getaway, right? That's some boring shit you're looking at, right? Like a ball whizzing around if you're not there, right? But when you're there in person, it makes that sound. The lights flash at your face, right? Yep. They don't flash at a camera that you're watching on your computer screen, right?
Yep.
There might be the shaker going off if they connect a shaker, which you have to buy separately, right?
Yeah.
It's a spectacle. It's just like, hey, look at me, I'm doing something cool. It's not like, a bash toy or the balls. I mean, the ball is interacting with it, but not in the same way as Medieval Madness Castle or the Well Walker or something. So some people liked it, some people hated it. It's not like I think people were just expecting it to blow them away. And as I said, you're not in front of it, but
no, I understand that. But if I was let's say I was in front of the machine, right? The lights were flashing. It was all the music was going. I'm hearing the Star Wars theme, and then the Death Star opened.
Oh my god! So it took them 2 hours and 4 minutes to which is really surprising because when you kind of like look at what you had to do, it didn't seem too hard, and you had the world's best pinball player playing it, but he just couldn't line it up. And basically, you can choose someone, and destroying the Death Star is a mini wizard mode, and there's like 4 mini wizard modes based on the 4 quadrants in the center of the playfield. Now, depending on who you choose, you have to play 3 missions, and then you get to do the mini wizard mode. If you choose a certain character that is not involved in that scene, it will skip those scenes. So they were all choosing the character. I'm not sure who it was, but they skipped 2 scenes. I think it was maybe Luke. They skipped 2 scenes from that universe, that world kind of thing, and they had to just play 1 mode, which was rescuing Princess Leia, I believe, and then they get to destroy the Death Star. The thing is, every single mini wizard mode is a multi-ball. If you drain down to 1 ball, that mini wizard mode is over, and I don't think you can do it again, maybe unless you go around the whole bend. Right. So when players like Keith were kind of like trying to get in to blow up the Death Star and then losing that second last ball, you can kind of like, it was a bit deflating because the last hour they were trying to, blow up the Death Star. So he wasn't really trying to save the ball, and there were some weird issues with the hyperdrive. I posted a picture I thought was funny, a video, where the ball just, I think the ball when it loops around the hyperdrive, it's kind of meant to be staged at the top while you choose a mode sometimes.
Yeah, and it was deactivating the hyperloop when it was going to choose a mode. So
it was just
I saw later on he did Keith would quickly just choose whatever mode would happen, so the animation would finish and then the flippers would activate again. But most of the time it just went back and forth down the middle, and I think
it's meant to loop around 3 times and then it's meant to stop and you can choose your mode, but it wasn't stopping. It kind of like the magnets would deactivate, but the ball had already gone past the part where it gets trapped. So the ball would then kind of like do this really sad kind of like U shape, about like 5 loops back and forth, and then it would just kind of plunk out.
I know.
And I'm pretty sure that's a software bug.
It's an easy fix, I would say.
Yeah, so I don't think people have to worry about that, but it is a bit embarrassing when you're trying to show off to the world how good Star Wars is.
Yeah, I know.
The other thing I want to talk about is there was a stark contrast between the first stream on the Pro and the second stream on the Premium LE. Now, the big difference, do you know what the big difference is, Marty?
No, do tell me.
No? Okay. No one, in the first game, people like, Keith was going against Josh, and they were trying to blow up the game, and they were really using their multipliers, right?
Yep.
And they weren't trying to show off the features of the game, like blowing up the Death Star. They were trying to just get 10 billion points. And I almost feel like they got a whisper in the ear before the stream saying, hey, try and progress through the game. Let's aim this one towards the collectors, like not the tournament players.
Right. Yeah.
We got negative feedback on the game is just about multipliers. So this is just me guessing, right? But no one sat there and trapped the ball, pressed the action button, move the multiplier to the left, or the right, press the button again. No one wants to see that on the stream. Everyone's criticism of the game, I think, is the scoring and the multipliers. One of the biggest criticisms. So it was really interesting that they kind of ignored that completely. No one said, hey, get up to 40x and go for that shot now. Like that conversation didn't exist. So, it was weird seeing the game in a different light. And they also updated the code, and I don't think it's released yet, but they were showing a new code. I think they nerfed the scoring again.
Yeah.
And they also added an option to not allow you to stack modes, and they enabled that for the stream. Okay. As I said, another thing that kind of I think for the collector out there, that to show them that, hey, you don't have to stack these modes which have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, okay.
Unlike Game of Thrones, which is kind of like an all-out battle.
Well, it sounds like they're listening to feedback, but they're probably getting the feedback themselves, but it only takes a quick glance of any forum or any Facebook page these days talking about it to get feedback on Star Wars.
Yeah, if you're not reading Pinside, you still get disappointed people everywhere, and people are still angry, Marty. People are still very split on Star Wars, and it's almost like the tipping point for some people, and I think the people that are angry can kind of be, I think there's two types of people that are angry about Star Wars. One, people that really, really, really love Star Wars way more than I ever will. Like, I don't care about Star Wars except for the 1 week of the year the movie is released. So people that really enjoy that universe and wanted to see the game brought to life, they're angry, and fair enough, right? They wanted something that maybe Jersey Jack could have pulled out. I think the other people that are angry are the people that kind of see everything that's been taken out of the alley, including the backglass, no shaker, the signature on the playfield, and then all the issues that Stern's been having with cabinets and playfields. Now, there's a group of people that want to be in on new in-box pinball machines, whether or not they like Star Wars. But I think they're trying to convince people that are in on the pinball to get out because they want to kind of protect. They feel like they're protecting the hobby, and they're saying, well, hey, if it sells out, then Stern's going to learn absolutely nothing from this experience, right?
Yeah.
Their sales might be as strong. All right, so we have to kind of like, everyone has to get out together. Like, let's show them.
Yeah, but they know. They get this feedback. I don't understand why it has to be like this mob mentality where, bring down the man.
But if the alleys sell out, I mean, I guess no one ever knows how many premiums they sell. But if the alleys sell out, I mean, do you think they really learned anything? Do you think they learned anything off the Batman Super LE at $15,000 US?
Yeah, maybe. And I had a big long conversation with this on the weekend with somebody, and my point to a lot of people is, well, making pinball is hard. We know that. Running a business, running a company is hard, and it's not like these people have deliberately gone out to do this. So I think they are genuinely trying to make a product as good as they can with whatever constraints they have. And I think that sometimes it gets a bit personal towards people. Gary Stern gets mentioned. Steve Ritchie gets mentioned. I don't think these people are intentionally trying to make bad art or make a bad game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when people have their pitchforks out, they have to blame it on someone, right?
Well, they do. And look, I will just point this out because it's on Facebook, but just scrolling through my Facebook, I did see a note from Steve Ritchie. It was to do with a Bowen Cairns goes, but he said, buck up, lad, and picture yourself reading Pinside as a game designer. If I seriously believed what I'd read there, my 45 would be looking pretty good right now. Don't let it get to you. We're doing fine. So that's where let's humanize it just for a second. There are people that have spent a lot of years trying to put a game together, and we know pinball's not easy to make. So I don't know. I get what you're saying is that because it is such a beloved franchise that people are feeling gutted that they didn't get their dream machine. I think that's probably what it is.
That's the thing. I mean, Star Wars trilogy's been done before. But people are thinking, well, will I be alive? And when someone else attempts it in 20 years from now, or will I still be into pinball? But it is what it is. It's been talked about to death. But it's quite. I wanted to mention as well. It's quite depressing. The more you read about Star Wars, the more you kind of get down on the hobby. And I'm so happy that I've got pinball machines. I can go into another room and I can just play the machines and not care about anything else in the world. And even when I'm playing in the tournament and streaming, I don't have to be alone. But if you sit there and if what you're getting out of the hobby is sitting on Pinside or Aussie Arcade, arguing back and forth about pinballs, then that's a shit hobby, that's garbage, and you're going to get yourself depressed. And I actually got a message from a friend, I'm not going to mention who it is or anything, and he's feeling really down on the hobby, and it's because of Star Wars, and it's because of the negativity and the toxicity of certain forums, and I'm just like, just play pinballs, man. We stress about what to buy next, and it's like, you don't need to buy anything new. There's plenty of old games to play, and if you're ever feeling down, just play pinball. That's what we're here for, right? We like playing pinball. We don't like speculating and talking about how shit a game is. If you don't like it, get out of the thread, move on. You don't need to tell people, every single day why they're a sucker for buying Star Wars.
Yeah, I know, and especially when there are people that they are really genuinely looking forward to it, and it's a lot of money to buy on a machine. I can't remember how much, 12 and a half for a
12.5 for an LE.
For an LE. So if you've laid down a deposit, you're going to spend $12,500 on a pinball machine. It's going to happen.
You want to feel good about it, right?
Yeah, you do. And people constantly telling you that you're a sucker and you're an idiot, and that that these guys have done one over you. That's not going to be a good experience. And I know that there's obviously people that want Stern to know so loudly that they do something about it, but message has been heard.
Yeah. I said I don't think it's going to happen from forum chatter. It's going to happen from a competitor. Someone has to
agreed.
Step it up. And I said, I mean, it's happening, but until Stern see a massive difference to their bottom line, then they can't be pressured into doing anything else. So
yeah. Anyway. So, moving right along. So, did you hear from our good friend Chris Canada? His pinball podcast. He interviewed the artist that did the back glass, the unofficial, I don't know, probably unlicensed back glass to Alien LE. So his name's Brian Allen.
I actually didn't mind it because I was in my games room and my shadow orbit was just. I had to fix my left orbit on my shadow. I had to do it. I'm sorry.
Awesome, but. It was such a fantastic interview, and Chris, to his credit, actually really made that interview flow really well. But for me, what was really good was that Brian obviously is a very, very talented artist, and I've looked at a lot of his other art, and maybe like Zombie Yeti, maybe he'll get some more pinball work out of this through a bad experience, because his art's fantastic. His art style is fantastic. That back glass art is fantastic, and I think you can now buy some prints, so even if it doesn't come out in the machine, at least you can get a print and sticky tape it to the back of your LE if you can ever get one. But I like
they're pretty cheap as well. I saw him selling it, and I was just like, hey, if I had more room for art in my also if I didn't have young kids that would be absolutely petrified of an alien about to bite their head off. But it was great.
It was just a really good balanced story. Like he wasn't sounding like he was bitter or angry. And I mean, of course, eventually he got paid after I think about 3 months. He was saying, but it was kind of like for somebody that was so into that and embroiled in the controversy that was Highway Pinball. I mean, obviously he gets money from other work that he does as well, but it was just a really good balanced story to tell about what had actually happened, and it was very insightful.
The thing that I kind of struck me is not odd, but I've noticed that he mentioned that he kind of didn't know anything about pinball.
Yeah.
And then I remember Chris Franchi, I think that's how you say his name, who did the artwork on Batman 66. He didn't know anything about pinball. Zombie Yeti also didn't know. I'm pretty sure I didn't know anything about pinball before he got involved with John Papaduke. So. That's kind of three. I think Dirty Donnie wasn't a pinball though. Kind of three artists there that have been involved in the pinball scene that kind of just never knew anything about it, and then they want to get involved. I think Matt Andrews as well, who was the cabin artist on Magic Girl and also did the artwork recently for Total Nuclear Annihilation. So there's all these artists, and they they kind of like they're working for pinball for the first time, and they kind of get not suck it into it, but they want to know more. They want to know why people are so passionate, why people are just going crazy on the forums. It has to be a good hobby, addictive hobby for people to be going this crazy, right? Yeah,
but just on that, so those people you've just mentioned haven't been into pinball, and yet for their first attempt, let's say Zombie Yeti's second attempt, they've absolutely just hit it out the park.
Yeah.
So, and then Star Wars.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, people are so used to kind of accepting whatever they're given because pinball's been hanging on for the last 20 years. Or not 20, but you know what I mean. And then you kind of give them this good art, and then you dial it back. And there's still a lot of people in the pinball industry. Well, not a lot. It's almost all of them have kind of been around for 30, 40 years. So, the fresh blood is good. The fresh blood and artist is good. I'm looking forward to seeing JJP number 4's pinball, who will have a new design artist. I'm looking forward to seeing Keith Alman's pinball.
Yeah, for sure.
First pinball for Stern. I mean, Scott Denisi is a new designer, and look at the reaction to his pinball machine. People are excited because it's something new, even though it's something old. You know, I mean, he's trying to replicate the behavior of a 1980s pinball machine. People are excited by new designers. You know, people don't want to see the same 3 people producing all the pinballs that come out every year.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for it as well. Some fresh blood will do us the world of good, I'd say.
Yeah.
Speaking of new, so I saw Homepin have actually just posted up a picture on their Facebook page showing the front cabinet art and saying that the cabinets, I think just the cabinets, are going to go to Pinfest this year, hopefully with the game inside.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there'll be a game inside, but he posted up a picture a couple of days ago saying his store manager's gathering all the parts to kind of ship over to Pinfest, and I wonder if it's all the parts going to be in the machine, or if it's going to ship unassembled and then they're going to assemble it there, or what's going to go on. But I think it's going to take around 4+ weeks to get there via sea. So obviously the pin's going to be further along in China by the time it's seen for the first time at Pinfest.
Yeah.
But he has to ship everything kind of now. So it'd be interesting to see, how it goes. It's kind of going to be a blank out and news in October at Pinfest.
Well, so that's so Pinfest is the 7th to the 8th of October, and it's at Caves Beach, which is near Newcastle, north of Sydney. I went to Pinfest a couple of years ago. It was fantastic, and I met Mike back then, said hello, and he's a great guy. But before that, he's actually going to be in Vancouver at the Vancouver Flip Out show.
You might have some exclusive info then.
Yeah, well, he's a guest speaker there. He's on the list, so I'd be curious to know what he talks about and what he reveals there, and then what he shows us at Pinfest.
Yeah, and if you do see the photo of the coin door, he's just kind of explained it on Aussie Arcade. It does look a little bit non-traditional because you've got a very small and narrow coin door and then kind of like a black metal plate on the left of it. He's giving the people that order it the options, like all the people that have pre-ordered it, the options of having a double coin door or a coin door and like a spot for a cache, I think a note reader. So yeah, if you order it, it will look like what you want it to look like. So don't be freaked out by that.
Okay, so over to you for the next pair. I'm going to let you give us some tournament-based news this week.
I don't care about tournaments, Marty. My good friend Paul Jonesy, is apparently PJ. No, not Jonesy. Is it PJ?
No,
People
it's
call
PJ.
him Jonesy.
Nah, it's
People
PJ.
call him Jonesy. People call him Jonesy.
Do they?
I'm pretty sure. I call him Paul Jones.
Okay.
I've actually got 2 of his pinball machines here. That's Simpsons and my Lord of the Rings were both bought off him.
Wow.
So yeah, thanks to PJ. He's now ranked the number 1 player in Australia according to the IFPA website. He's knocking off Peter Watt.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah. So so he's now number 90 in the world, which is great. He's actually had, I'd say in recent months, some really good results. So particularly Brisbane Masters. So you'll hear more about the Brisbane Masters with the interview we've got with Jimmy Nails. But he won the 3 Strikes tournament. He came 2nd in the Flip Frenzy and 5th in the main tournament. And so plus he was actually at the the Danish the World Championships as well and got some points there as well. And just in the last month he's had a really good run that's now put him on the top spot. And in Australia there hasn't really been that many people that have been at the top spot. It's usually it's a race between, let's say, probably 8 to 10 people that are the elite here.
This is the issue, I guess, for Australians, is that people in the US can travel all around, and there's a lot of competitions, and there's a lot of good players. So I'm guessing you get a lot more Whopper points. Is that what they're called?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. I'm learning.
You are.
Now, if you're in Europe, there's a lot of countries in Europe, so you can drive to another country. If you're in Canada, you can fly down to the US. If you're in Australia, you gotta spend some serious money if you want to play in big competitions, right?
Yeah.
You're never going to move very far up the ranks, even if you're absolutely blitzing around Australia. You're never going to probably crack the top 50 or something, right? Am I right in saying that?
You've got a point. I mean, look, so he won, the Three Strikes comp. I think, there was 80 people in that, and he got 40 points, Whopper points for winning that. And I remember hearing...
I have no idea what that
for Australia, yeah, absolutely, that is a lot. But, in the US, I heard a couple of weeks ago that... on a podcast, I can't remember which one it was, that someone came 6th in a tournament and they got 50 points.
Oh, God, okay.
So that's the bit of a difference. And, that's what I was saying before about the Melbourne Silverball League, that, the amount of effort that I put into this comp, the winner would get 4 points.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's just the challenge. But, if we look at the Australian rankings in a bubble, then that's all we should be really looking at, and have fun when we go overseas when we do.
Another thing I want to say about Paul is he's probably the only... I don't want to say this, but okay, a lot of people that play tournaments, I believe, a lot, aren't, not everyone, I don't want to generalize everyone in the same bubble, but their pinballs are in a certain condition that as long as it works, then they don't care. As long as the switches are all working, like it doesn't matter if there's playfield wear and stuff. And when you're buying a pinball machine off someone that's like a top-ranked player, they're not as fussy. They might not mention certain things that need work or whatnot, versus a collector who might hardly ever play his pinball machine, but they kind of look at it as like a showpiece. Paul is both of those people together. He's a really good player, but his pinball machines, he does them up. Like he buys a pinball machine, he spends a lot of money on it, he puts mods on it, like he mirror blades, he does everything to it. I don't know. I haven't really heard of. I said maybe there's a lot of people out there like that, but normally tournament players aren't as. I don't want to use the word fussy or anything because I don't think it's fussy, but they don't put as much work into their machines as I think PJ does.
Well, I think that's why they say it's in player's condition or
player's condition. That's right.
Or in collector's condition. They're two very different things, and a player just wants to know. Does multi-ball work? Do all the switches work? Does it play well enough? Are the flippers strong? It doesn't need to have all the plastics. It doesn't need to have, all the it just needs to be able to score properly. That's the number one thing.
Yeah. They don't care about color DMDs and things like that, but
no.
He's a special breed as well, Mr. PJ.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, it's now time to move on to our interview with Jimmy Nails from Netherworld. Have you met Jimmy?
I have not met Jimmy, but I wish we were into podcasting before I went to Queensland. So I was up there a couple of weeks ago, probably a month ago, and I was waiting for the key to my room, and we had about an hour to spare, and we headed down to. I convinced my wife with our 2 young kids to head down to Netherworld, and she was quite reluctant because. One, she was hungry. She wanted to eat somewhere first, which we ended up doing, eating somewhere first. We didn't know that they serve awesome food there at Netherworld, and some vegan options as well, because my wife is unfortunately vegan. And second, because I've brought along to some other places as well, like Pixel Alley, and it's not really a kid-friendly environment. And it was midday, and they just opened up, and I was absolutely blown away, and she was as well. And that was the biggest thing. Like, she actually wanted to stay there, and the kids were playing on the arcade machines and pinballs. And my little kid saw Adam's Family, which she absolutely loves. And that's the tick of approval for me. If my wife says, "I can't believe how cool this place is, and we should have had lunch here, and I wish there was a place like this in Melbourne," that's not me saying that. That's someone that doesn't enjoy pinball as much as me saying the place is cool. And one thing, I don't want to spoil anything, but one thing that Jimmy says in the interview is he has to, if you want a cool pinball bar, a barcade, it has to be a good bar first, and the pinball is second. Which I always thought that's if I had never gone to Netherworld, I would say that's bullshit. It has to be all about the pinballs, and then I don't really care But then when you go to Netherworld, you're like, okay, yes, I get it. Like, you don't have to be playing pinballs to enjoy the place. You can just sit back and have a beer, play board games. If anyone is listening to this podcast and travels to Queensland for business, or if you're from America, anywhere, if you're doing business and you're in Queensland, or even if you're on the Gold Coast is a big tourist destination. It's an hour and a bit drive from the Gold Coast, and it's worth checking out, because I think it's I haven't been to the US, but I think it's got to be up there, one of the coolest pinball destinations in the world. And they just opened, right? Like, it's still pretty new, so they're just going to get better and better.
Yeah, I agree. And do you know what? I was gonna comment on when I was over in the States and went to Sunshine Laundromat. The same thing happened with my partner, who not interested in pinball at all, and just went, this place is great. You can go and play pinball. I'll get a drink at the bar, and stayed for hours. And that's the sign of a good place.
Yeah, exactly. So if anyone wants to open up a pinball bar, that's the key ingredient. Cool bar first, pinball second, because the pinball is probably the easy part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to the interview.
Here's the interview. Thank you for joining Head to Head Pinball Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, look, my first memory of you is I met you at the Peacock. You were running a tournament back then, which is still going today. And so, just a bit of a background. So, Jimmy's still running competitions, ran the Brisbane Masters a couple of weekends ago, and runs the Netherworld. Would you call it a barcade, a pubcade? What's the word they say in these days?
Arcade bar. I'm not sure we're even allowed to say barcade, because that's TM'd by the guys in Brooklyn. So I think, yes, we definitely use the term arcade bar. We kind of have 12 to 16 pinballs on site, depending on what sort of events are going on. We run a monthly Flip Frenzy. We run the Brisbane Pinball Club moved in this year, run by Jason Lambert. And then try and run 2 or 3 majors a year. So we just had the Brisbane Masters last weekend, which was 80 players across 3 days. I did a ridiculous Death by Pinball event at Easter where we played pinball for 18 hours straight. I've got Pin Golf coming up at the end of August. Death by Pinball was a blast. Next Easter, it's definitely going to be a 24-hour event for those brave enough to come.
and I believe there were some people that came around from Australia for that event too.
Yeah, some guys up from Melbourne and Sydney. It became a very communal event. Everyone was encouraging each other to go the distance and looking after each other in the last 5 or 6 hours, because it got pretty tiring. But at the same time, everyone said that the 18 hours just flew by. So we're definitely going to push for 24 this year, next Easter Saturday.
Wow. Okay. That'll be lots of fun. Well, I'll go into the competition side of things, particularly Brisbane Masters in a sec. But I'm curious to know, because I've actually been to your Netherworld arcade, barcade, whatever we're going to call it, a couple of months ago, and it was incredible. For me, it was the best integration of a drinking spot, an eating spot, and a gaming spot. But I'm curious to know whether that was your intent, but really go back and explain, why did you decide to do this?
Yeah, I guess, the idea came 5 odd years ago, just from becoming a bit obsessed with pinball out of the Peacock, and the pinball started doing well. Did a bit of research and seen how big of a scene that arcade bars are in the USA. There are literally thousands and thousands of them in the USA.
Yeah.
And in that research, I probably read tens of thousands of reviews of arcade bars. And the biggest gripes, the biggest gripe that you read all the time is amazing concept executed poorly. So people thinking that you can just put games in a room and make money is not the way to do an arcade bar. You need to present the whole package, which is good food, good beer, a comfortable environment, and the games are literally a bonus. It needs to be what me and my business partners said from the very beginning is it needs to be a great bar first, and then the games are just a massive bonus. And I think that's what we've pulled off. The food's amazing. Bryn does an incredible job with the food. The kitchen's just skyrocketing at the moment. And beers, my business partners have been in beers for they've had another craft beer venue for 5 years now, and I was a beer rep for the 2 years prior to this, so we're all pretty beer obsessed as well. So craft beer and pinball fall together pretty nicely.
Yeah,
I reckon.
and was it easy, or was it difficult to get it up and running? I mean, it's all well and good to have an idea, but to actually execute on it, I could imagine it would be a bit of a challenge.
Oh man, it was unbelievably difficult. Like if you met me over the previous 5 years, it's probably the only thing I talked about. Just trying to find the right people to get involved in the right venue. I probably looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sites around Brisbane. And yeah, then the management of the games and getting that dream list together. Ben and I sat down at the very beginning and wrote a dream list of what games we would want on the floor. And we nearly pulled it off. We've probably just about got that list in there now, but the time and investment of drawing those machines together was a task in itself. And luckily, I had some good mates who were operators who jumped in head first into the bar with us and invested a lot of time and money getting those games up and ready and found and cleaned and prepared for, being on 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, getting played non-stop. So the games need to be prepped for that sort of environment, which is hard in itself.
Yeah, so I know that you've got pinball machines and arcade machines, but let's not talk about arcade machines. It's a different podcast for that. But can you, if you can, off the top of your head, name the pinball machines you've got there?
Today we would have Dungeons and Dragons, the Addams Family, Twilight Zone, Ghostbusters, Transporter, Walking Dead, Spider-Man Vault, Terminator 2, what else? And then the back wall has Taxi, pardon me, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Batman 66, Indiana Jones, and there's one more, I can't remember. Wizard of Oz is there at the minute, but it's in the shop.
Okay.
I've had some trouble with that. What else is in the shop? Tales from the Crypt is downstairs. Frankenstein's in backup. Funhouse is on the floor as well. Just got back from a flipper rebuild and a clean by Tony out at Capella Bar. And it's playing beautifully.
Do you still have I think you had a Magic Castle when I was there, Zachariah? Is that still there?
And that's in the rotation. That comes back from time to time. That's a beautiful machine and a bit of a crowd favourite, that one.
Yeah, I love that. I love that machine so much.
It has some of the most peculiar and funny call-outs of any machine I've ever played. It's a very funny game.
Yeah, and look, I love those machines because of their quirky layout. They've also got great art, and the call-outs as well are amazing.
That back glass on that machine is spectacular. It's one of the best you'll ever see.
It's fantastic. Now, I've also noticed that you do a bit of streaming from Netherworld as well.
Yeah, we've started. We're trying to get better at it and more efficient and cleaner at it. So trying to do the pinball club or the arcade club. Ben and I are also going to do a series of tutorials because we have in-house little challenges around the bar called wizard pins. So you can earn a limited edition artist designed pin if you can achieve a certain score on a pinball machine. At the minute, the wizard pins are on Ghostbusters and Twilight Zone. You've got to get 250 million on each. And Tales from the Crypt and Addams Family are 150 million each. So they're pretty tough if you're not a serious pinballer. That Ghostbusters one even haunts most great pinball players. 250 million on Ghostbusters is not easy.
Yeah.
So we're going to try maybe do a couple of little short tutorials for those, just to help people along. And then, just try and grow our video content through streaming and the short tutorials.
And you've also had, we'll go to the arcade side for a bit, you've actually had some like attempts at world records on some of those arcade games.
Yeah, we've had some serious arcade guys live in Australia and in Brisbane. We've got the number one. Well, my bar manager has the world record on point blank,
Right.
which he achieved a few months ago. He was playing and he played a lot, and I said, "Geez, man, you're pretty good at that." Had a look at the Twin Galaxies world record, and he was blowing that out of the water by about 10,000 at the time. So I got him on video. He's now officially the world record holder on that. John Tannehill is a local. He's got the second highest score on Space Invaders of all time, which is pretty ridiculous for a game that's been around since the early 80s.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible. And then there's a couple more. Andrew Barra came over from New Zealand for an event I ran early in the year. We got some of the best Donkey Kong players in Australia for that. We actually had in-house for one weekend. We had 5 guys that had kill screened Donkey Kong. There's only about 40 people in the world that can do that. So that's getting to the last stage and pretty much frying the game.
Uh-huh.
And over that weekend, Andrew Barra got the second highest score ever on Gallagher on tournament settings, which was I think 2.5 hour run, which is pretty ridiculous to watch.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of those arcade world records really become a challenge of stamina. If you can learn the patterns and the skills to carry on, it just can be a matter of can you do that for 4.5 hours and not make a mistake, which is pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah, well, I remember watching one of them, and it went for a long time, and sadly, I had to go out for the day. So, what's the channel that you've got on Twitch called?
Netherworld Arcade.
So everybody, look it up, like and subscribe, and you'll see some great streaming.
We also had Shane Saul is a local guy as well. He's the highest ranked or the Australian record holder for Donkey Kong, and he also scored 1 million points on Pac-Man the other day, which again is just a ridiculous thing to do. There wouldn't be many people in the world that can do that.
Wow. Well, that sounds awesome. Okay, so moving on to the competition side of things. So, Brisbane Masters, we talked about that last week. We could only really talk at it from a distance. I watched a lot of it via your stream. But talk to me about the Masters. Talk about the format and how it went for you.
It was one of the cleanest, smoothest run events I think we've ever done. Thanks to Jason Lambert, the guy I run it with. He's an amazing tournament director. We had a really beautiful venue. We couldn't do it in Netherworld because, to have 80 players in the venue playing pinball for 12, 14 hours, it doesn't leave any room for anybody else. So a good friend of ours owns a bar around the corner. We put 24 pinball machines out the back in their function space, which is this beautiful old timber building. It's just stunning. And we had 60, 70 odd players on the Friday night. We did a 3 strikes tournament. Saturday was 6 rounds of match play qualifying for the Brisbane Masters. Saturday night was a flip frenzy. Sunday morning was finals for the Masters qualifying, and Sunday night was a flip frenzy. Every event went really well. The Masters qualifying is, I reckon, one of the most stressful events you can go to because that match play format is just cutthroat. I think between the top 24 qualified for the finals. I think to get through, you get 78 points was to tie for 21st, and there was like another 20 people within 4 points of that could have qualified. So the tightness of that event, one bad game early on can cost you those 2 points right at the end. So you got to be on your game from the very beginning.
Any tiebreakers to get into the finals, or was it all clean?
Yeah, there was a very nasty 5-way tie for 21st. So they had to play a 3-ball game on Walking Dead to get through. The 4 people with the highest scores would get through. Unfortunately, Warren Beetham got pipped there. Russell Dagger got through by the skin of his teeth. It was very lucky. and Esther was in that group. You would know Esther.
I know
from
Esther
Melbourne.
very well. Yeah, she is.
Yeah, so that got Esther. She had a great game on Walking Dead, so she got through to qualify in the top 24, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, that was cutthroat. Some really good players just missed out. Chris Wade missed out by a couple of points. Mick Paul, Hugh Dixon was probably in the travelling in the 14s, in the early teens all day, and then just had a shocking round 6 and ended up finishing 42nd just from having a bad last round.
It's all it takes, isn't it?
It's terrifying. Some great players: Grant Stevens, Corey Hamilton, Chris Jennings. So many guys just missed out by a few points.
And so, what was the format for the finals? It wasn't match play, was it? It was head-to-head knockout. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was two. No, it wasn't match play. So it was 2-player head-to-head. The final was probably a bit more cutthroat than it should have been. It was literally. It was over very quickly. It was head-to-head. If you lost, you were out. That was the end of it. We did change it a little bit in that the highest seed got to choose a bank of machines to play on. So instead of having the best of 3 on one game, they had to choose a bank, just the same 24 banks that we'd been rotating through the qualifying. So, for example, you could look across the 24 banks and choose, Walking Dead, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Space Invaders might be, whatever bank you thought you were most confident on or would give your opponent the most trouble, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was a really fun format. Some guys chose confidently. Other guys made the lower seed choose, because the person who doesn't choose gets to choose playing order. So it was good. It was, cutthroat. Again, Lambo was out first round. I think Paul Jones was who qualified first by 6 points above everybody else, which, like I said, qualifying every point counts. Paul Jones was 6 points ahead of everybody, so he had a blinding qualifying. But I think from memory he might have been out in the first or second round through finals. Pretty cutthroat. I think next year I would really like to, for qualifying, we turned off extra ball save, and on some of especially the more modern games, we took the rubbers off from the outlane posts.
Yeah.
Which is a nasty, horrible thing to do to players. But especially to Lambo's credit, the qualifying rounds went to the minute. We played 6 rounds. Every round took exactly an hour and a half. We finished dead on time. So that's a testament to Lambo's settings of the machines, but also, I guess we didn't have any machine malfunction. So the guys that supplied the machines and the operators did an amazing job. And also, I guess it was a very experienced field of pinball players as well. So they all know the format. And they know where to stand and what to do, and no one panics when there's a malfunction or a ball stuck. Everyone has been through it a few times, so that helps as well.
Well, speaking of knowing where you need to go, you mentioned obviously that there was 2 Flip Frenzy tournaments on the Saturday night and the Sunday night, and that's what sparked our interest last week, because as I said, I was watching the feed, particularly because you were streaming Star Wars, but as I was watching it on the Saturday night, I kept hearing this woman doing a voiceover, and I thought you might have been in an RSL or a restaurant and someone was calling out their orders, or I think they might have something.
Number 21.
Yeah,
Junker is ready.
Yeah, it could have been that they were doing like a raffle, and I was thinking, is this woman calling out a raffle? And then I realised, I think she said some names that I heard, and she said, go to Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I'm like, what? Yeah. So can you tell us, can you first of all give us a better explanation, I think, that we did on the Flip Frenzy format, and then talk through this software that you developed? Yeah,
so the Flip Frenzy format, I think Luke Marberg spotted that format or a very similar style of format being used in Japan.
Yeah.
And he gave it a go in Melbourne and kind of tweaked it a tiny bit, but it's a really fun 3-hour frenzy of pinball where you play head-to-head matches. You play as many as you can in those 3 hours, and the person with the best win-loss ratio at the end of the 3 hours is the winner. It's a awesome format, especially for new players. It's social. You know, one of the things I always say is you introduce yourself to who you're playing, and new players find it very undaunting and a lot of fun. And you know, even if you end up with 1 win and 19 losses, people still, you know, want to buy a ticket for the next event straight away.
Well, it's still 20 games you played anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And the, you know, value for money as well. You know, Netherworld's $20 in, and you at least get 18 games, sometimes 25, depending on how your day goes. So yeah, that value for money, and you instead of some other formats where it's 1 game, best game, and you only have a handful and you're out. The Frenzy offers a really fun way, but for the tournament director, they are a nightmare to run.
Well, I know from experience. Yeah, when I think it was might have been either the first or the second one that Luke ran down in Melbourne, I assisted him, and it was all paper based, and it was really taxing on the tournament director. So, so you obviously didn't want to do that if you're running it every month.
No, it is absolutely exhausting. The first 2 months at Netherworld, it was basically me and Ben standing there yelling at people what to do, and me frantically scrolling through a spreadsheet to try and get the numbers in as fast as you can. They were fun. Ben enjoys yelling at people, but it was it's really exhausting. I think for Ben and I, it was more of a frenzy than any other players. But yeah, we have some very clever. I guess you've seen a lot of our media and our posters and our webpage are very, very handsomely and very professionally done. And we have some really good mates who do that. And Scott Barbs helps out with some of that stuff. And he bravely said he thinks he could write a software program for this. We sat down and talked about what sort of weird things can happen and what the software would need to do. And yeah, he's come up with this beautiful software that takes the stress off the tournament director. Because one of the other things you've got to manage is with the Frenzy, if you lose the first time on the machine, you stay on. If you lose twice on the machine in sequence, you come off and the winner stays on. It sounds simple enough, but it can be very confusing in the heat of the Frenzy, and people can get confused, and they will often argue about the sequence that they're in, and they think so that can slow the queue down, and people can get a bit flustered. But this software takes that all away. If you've got connection to a projector, it's got the little logo of each pinball machine. It's got who's playing under the 2 players underneath it. On the left-hand side is a nice queue, so it tells you how far you are off playing. And then as each game is commenced, the voiceover comes through the speakers and tells you exactly what to do and where to head. And it's incredible. It just takes the pressure off the tournament directors, and it also takes the pressure off the players to have to be thinking about or worrying about where they need to be or what sequence they're in, or have I just lost or am I winning? So it takes a fair bit of the frenzy out of it. We did one at Netherworld a couple of weeks ago, and it was just the smoothest, cleanest 3 hours ever, and me and Ben just sat there and twiddled our thumbs for 3 hours while Scott entered the data. So yeah, we've had some teething problems. A lot of people didn't trust the software to start with, so that's been a little bit of a barrier. But now, everybody's loving it.
And so again, we asked the question last week, hence why we wanted to reach out to you. Is it software that's going to be available for other people to use? I mean, as I said, we don't know whether this is a format that's popular in America, and they may want to access it. Yeah, I did. Well, yeah, that was definitely our plan from the outset. Our original plan was to have it as nearly a self-controlled thing as well. So you would walk up to a desk, and there'd be an iPad or a touch screen there, and you just pressed your pinball machine icon. It would know who has walked up to it, and you press who's won. But I still feel there still needs to be someone there to kind of handle a tournament director around to handle disputes and stuck balls, and if someone goes missing from the queue or isn't there for their turn. So we just ended up keeping it as a director operated machine anyway, because someone needs to be there talking to people anyway. But yeah, that's definitely the plan, is to make it accessible and manageable for anyone to be able to use. I did speak to Luke. It's not a massive format in the USA at the minute. Yeah.
It's huge in Australia, obviously, but Who knows if they see that how simple it is to run and the kind of value points wise that winners get, it's a great tournament to win if you're looking for IFPA points, and it's also a great style of tournament to get new players in. So I think it has a lot of benefits.
Yeah, look, I was quite surprised that that it really hasn't taken off. So if anyone in America is listening to this podcast, and we expect there might be a couple, look up Flip Frenzy. Certainly, I would say go to Netherworld on Facebook. Is that what it's, just look up Netherworld?
Yep.
Last week we also posted on the Head2Head Pinball Facebook page. We actually shared someone's video that they took of the day, where you can hear the call outs as well.
I think Marco took a great video.
Yeah, that's the one. It is. Everyone that I've spoken to, and even myself, I helped run one and then played in one. It's the most fun you can have playing pinball, because you may have a good or a bad game, and it doesn't matter. You've just got to quickly run to get to your next machine, because it's just as many points as you can get.
Yeah, and it's fun and I think it offers too for people who play a lot of competitions. There is a lot of strategy involved. Whether how quickly you get through a game, whether you can sort of judge your opponent, and whether if you're first player, if you need to put up a massive score to get that win, or you only need to put up a little score. If your opponent has put up a huge score, is it worth chasing down, or do you just spin your balls out and get back to the table so you can chase your next win?
Yeah, I did see that.
So there's a fair bit of strategy involved.
Yeah, but it's quick strategy. You've got to make those calls immediately. You don't have time to sit on that.
Oh no! I played my first one on the Sunday night at Masters, and played atrociously because I got into the mindset that I needed to play really fast and to get things done quickly. So I started well. I think I won my first 3 or 4. I'm like, I'm doing really well. I need to get going so maybe I can win. And as soon as I started rushing, I lost like the next 12 games, I think. So you need to have
lost your rhythm.
Like there's an urgency, but as soon as you start rushing things, so there's a fair bit of skill involved in keeping your head in that rushed environment.
Now, you also managed to have the Star Wars by Stern Pro machine there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. It was good. It was really nice of AMD to loan it to us. That was lovely. I just mailed it. We sent it back this morning. Actually, I got some nice photos of it on the truck heading back to Sydney. It's good. I'm a little confused in the artwork, but I think there's an actual game there. So I had some fun playing it. I probably only played a couple of dozen games, but some guys came in and broke it open pretty good. I think Lambo got 4 billion on it while it was there over the weekend, and Jacob Paint was in on Saturday. I think he knocked out 2 billion on it. So there's a bit of strategy involved with setting up your multipliers and the rest. We've got a premium model coming to Netherworld in October or whenever they land.
Yeah, okay.
So super keen to see. From what I understand, it's got the exploding Death Star and the huge hyper ramp or something like that.
Yeah.
So super keen to see that. We're pretty critical of artwork, I guess, at Netherworld, because we love things to be on theme and to try and avoid games that just have kind of stock photos as artwork.
Yeah.
And we love monster themed stuff or sci-fi or so we had kind of high hopes for the Star Wars artwork, but anyway.
They say that if a game plays great, you can overlook the artwork. Do you think that's the case?
I don't know. I'm really keen to see the Pro. I'm in the premium when it gets here, and I know a few guys have got LEs heading to their houses, so super keen to see. I don't know if there's different art packages on that. But I mean, for me, the biggest hit Stern of recent is Ghostbusters. I absolutely adore that machine. The artwork is just insane. I love it. I love everything about it. It's a terrifyingly hard game to play.
It really is.
Which I also love.
But it looks great.
It's horrible. Yeah, it looks great. I hope that they vault it one day with the LCD display with clips from the movie. I'm a bit bummed that
Yeah.
They were so close to
Just
Batman
missed out.
66 that you could have had a Ghostbusters with Bill Murray laughing at you while you play pinball. That would have been pretty amazing.
Yeah, I need something to distract me from that terrible flipper gap and the balls jumping over the outlines. But besides that, yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. It does.
Oh, well, mate, thank you very much for coming on Head to Head Pinball Podcast. We really do appreciate your time. And in particular, I really like what you've done for the Brisbane community. And if anybody is coming to Australia and heading to Brisbane, please go in and check out Netherworld. It is just an amazing location. And from everybody around Australia, I know a lot of people do actually come up there, especially to see the place, but also especially to say hi to Jimmy. I know a lot of people always come up and say, yep, I did get to speak to Jimmy. So you're always very welcoming of people, and you're always there. So that might be a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
So thank you
I
very much for
appreciate
your
it.
time.
And thanks for we love all the support with the bar, and congrats to you on the podcast. It's really exciting to hear another Aussie voice talking pinball. It's great.
I appreciate it. Thanks, mate.
All right, buddy.
It's really great to listen to somebody that's, really passionate about this. And, as I said, I've known Jimmy for many years. He was the first person I met that was running tournaments in Melbourne. And I guess it's probably one of the things that I say to all tournament directors is the very first thing that you need to do as tournament director is to greet people when they arrive and make them feel really welcome, because, Ryan, yourself, going to a tournament can be quite intimidating. You don't know what the people are going to be like. Are they going to be weirdos, or are they going to be nice people? It's quite confronting to go to a tournament for the first time. And the best thing that you can do as a tournament director is, if this is the case, let people know that you're actually a normal person and it's okay to come into this weird world where something that you played in arcades when you were a kid or at friend's house, there's actually other people that play this together. And that's how I felt the first time. Like, what? These people all come to a place and they play pinball and it's a competition. I thought that was really weird, but within a few minutes of being there, I went, okay, it's weird, but we're all weird, and let's just be a part of it.
Yeah.
So is that how you felt when you came to Melbourne Silverball League during the week?
Well, I said as soon as I walked in, I got kicked in the shins. But
that's how we greet you.
No, as I said, it was it was a lot easier going. Now that I knew a lot more people. The first time I went, I think I knew one person. He's a pretty quiet guy, and as I said, I mean, you're talking about weird people. There was a weird guy there, and he was, when people get drunk, Marty, and they're really happy and they're fun, like my wife and like you.
Yep.
This guy was not the kind of person. He was the type of person that he got so drunk and he was playing pinball that you have to laugh at his jokes, because if you don't laugh at his jokes, he might think that, you want to start a fight with him. So this guy was in the tournament, and it just kind of like ruined the whole night for me. But
yeah, well, that's a shame. Yeah. I mean, that's a very much an outlier. That doesn't happen. Most of the comps are just good people.
Well, that was
pinball.
Fitzroy, so Fitzroy's full of.
Sure.
I don't want to use the word anyway.
And just further to that interview as well, a couple of days ago, Jimmy posted up, I believe, on the Netherworld Facebook page, an update. He went live and did an update on the Flip Frenzy software, and what was really good about that was he actually showed the screen, how it works, and it's so clever, but then also went behind the desk and showed how the interface works as well. And the sign of really good software is not just that it works, but having a really good interface that everybody can use. And I know that he's wanting it at some stage to become a software that other people can use. And therefore, usability is going to be really important, because he wants it to be self-serve.
Talking about self-serve money, should we head to the mailball bag?
You've just stolen that from the Slam Talk podcast.
I actually tried to say mailbag, and it just rolled off my tongue. I'm sorry. I don't think they've trademarked it yet, so maybe we can just steal it off them. No, we won't.
Well, Ron and Bruce, we have officially stolen it from you, so let's go to the mailbag. What you got for me?
All right, we got geez, we got a lot of stuff in the mailbag.
Do you know what? Can we just stop by saying we have had so much good feedback. It has just been great. The amount of emails, messages, comments, strangers, people coming up to me in the street saying, I don't know who you are. Can you get out of my face? But yeah, look, it's really good, and we do want people to ask us questions, send us feedback. We only want to just get better and make it more interesting as we go along.
Yeah, and just a quick note before I forget. If someone responds to your email and there are 3 exclamation marks after like every sentence, that's Martin, okay? That's every email has that's who it is, because we're not signing our names. If there's lots of spelling mistakes and the sentences don't make sense, that's me.
Yeah.
So
I like people to read how excited I am.
And we're getting feedback on, like, there's Facebook messages, there's the forums, there's pin sites. We'll probably only read out the emails because privacy and we don't. I don't know if people want us to read out certain things that are said in messages and private things. But if you email us, unless you tell us not to read it out, we will read it out. And I did get a lot of feedback on my pronunciation of the Daleks. Is that how you,
I think it's pronounced Daleks.
No.
Oh, wow.
Listen, I don't. Doctor Who means it's almost like an original IP for me. It means absolutely nothing. So yeah, everyone's hanging on shit like this is part of my childhood. It wasn't part of anything. So Daleks, I don't care.
But you know what? It's like saying Darth Vader.
No, but that's okay.
No, it's the same.
It's a bit different.
No.
Star Wars is rooted into pop culture history forever. Okay, it's never ever going to go away.
Doctor Who was first. Anyway.
Only nerds about Doctor Who. Like, no one cares about Doctor Who. Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
No,
because I like nerdy stuff as well, and I used to be a computer programmer. So
there you go.
Done.
All right. So first we got a message from Daniel Pongrak. Daniel, I do know Daniel. Daniel, as you'll see in his note, he does play some tournaments. I have met him a couple of times. He says, "Hi guys, enjoy the first 2 podcasts." Oh, thank you. I listen to many of the other pinball podcasts, and it's a great combination you guys have. A competitive player and a collector/home player, it mirrors myself perfectly, as I'm a once-a-month competitive player. I repair and mod my own machines and try to keep informed about all facets of pinball. I know people who collect, restore, repair, sell, who are active on Aussie Arcade, and people who operate pinballs. A lot of the time these people don't really interact together, so it's great to hear 2 guys I know chat about the many facets of pinball. Just on that, that's probably the most feedback that I've had, is people saying how much they enjoy the 2 angles that we come at with pinball, and that was the whole premise of doing head-to-head and why the name Head2Head Pinball came about. And that's what I had in my mind when I said, Ryan, we should do this, because I liked the opposite spectrums on the same topic.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, it's quite a segregated hobby, I think, in Australia.
Yeah.
One, because everyone's so far apart, but 2, we don't have the expos that all the people in the US have. So I'm not saying that we're going to be the thing that brings it all together, but if it brings it together on a very small level, then that's good enough for us.
Then we've done something, yeah. So quick question. I'm thinking about trying to purchase a World Poker Tour pinball. Can I get both your opinions on this machine? Cheers, Daniel. Daniel, great question. Ryan, you first.
Okay. I haven't given much play into World Poker Tour, but I know a decent amount about it. And I have a lot of Keith Johnson pinballs. I think I've got, well, not a lot, but I've got 3 pinball machines, and I've owned RFM and whatnot. World Poker Tour, I think, is seen by the community as the best bang for buck deep rule set pinball you can get. I think prices
by a mile.
The prices still hover in Australia around $3,000 to $4,000. You can go higher than $4,000 if you've modded it up, and I've seen them go for over that. But they don't generally go for less than $3,000. But I mean, there's a lot of drop targets in the game.
Yeah.
But it's a Steve Ritchie game, so you've got a decent amount of flow. I think is it the only Is it the only Steve Ritchie, Keith Johnson pinball machine?
That I don't know.
I think it is.
Someone write in and tell us head2headpinball@gmail.com.
Yeah, I mean, Keith worked on a lot of games kind of in the background, but I mean, he's known for Simpsons, Lord of the Rings, Wizard of Oz, Hobbit, and World Poker Tour. Those are his 5 games that he's known for just diving really, really deep into the rules, and those are the famous Keith Johnson games. Do you like poker? If you like poker, it's probably the best poker game out there.
Well, do you know what? If you like poker, it would probably kill you, because it's not really about playing the game to try and get which hand. The hands are all preset. You just move through the hands and then go from city to city. So it's a poker theme, but you're not really playing poker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, I haven't played much of the game, but I kind of know people's opinions on it. I know the price of it because I've had a couple of friends that have owned it, but I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's just poker was going through a massive kind of hype phase with the World Poker Tour TV show. I think it was on Foxtel, and then it ended up on normal TV, and people were just, I haven't bought a poker set. I don't give a shit about poker. and that's when the pin came out. So, poker kind of died, hype-wise, and it's kind of like a forgotten theme and a forgotten pin. But if you look at it as a pinball machine that has deep rules and isn't going to cost you $10,000, then should be right up your alley.
Yeah, so from a collector's point of view, you think really good value for money.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I actually tried to buy that machine twice, and I've missed out on it because, as I said, they come up, they're cheap. People don't gel with it, and I think it would be a machine that I would have for a couple of months, and then it'd probably just drive me crazy because Keith Johnson pins, they sometimes make you feel like you're not a great player because you want to get to the end. And I think if you don't really enjoy the theme, that can kind of come back to bite you in the bum. Right. But I like The Simpsons, I like Lord of the Rings, I like Wizard of Oz, I like The Hobbit. So those machines are mine. So
just side note, on ipdb.org, Elvis. Steve Ritchie machine, software, Keith Johnson, but also with Lonnie and Dwight, so don't know whether he was...
Hey, I played an Elvis for the first time yesterday, and I really wanted to play a good version of it, but this machine, nothing like it was still on, they were still accepting coins, but the flipper didn't work, the drop towers didn't work, the kick-out didn't work properly, it was just, it was barely functioning, and I only wanted to put $1 into it because I could see the condition of the pin to have one game, but I only had a $2 coin, and I put it in, and I only played one of the 3 credits it gave me because it was just that disappointing. And that's not a thing on the pinball; it was just the condition of it. So I still don't know if it's a cool game or not.
Well, so. I'm if I can dig up the photo, I will put it on the Head2Head Pinball Facebook page. Hopefully, I can dig up this photo, but. One of the worst conditioned machines I've ever played in my life, and this place is notorious. I went there 18 months apart, and it was just as bad each time. It's actually in Santa Monica Pier in the United States of America. And this Elvis was just absolutely abhorrent. It was the worst condition, but the worst thing was, you know how it's got the upper playfield?
Mm-hmm.
Where the upper playfield was, where there is a flipper up there, it had no flipper, but a ball was placed in the hole where the flipper would be.
Ah, so you can't see where the shaft is.
Yep, correct. There's a ball where the shaft should be.
Oh no. Okay.
So
there's no joke there at all.
Don't be replacing your balls with shafts or vice versa. No, anyway, hopefully I can find this picture and I'll put it up because and every machine at that place was worse than that. Just a terrible venue. If anyone from Santa Monica Pier is listening to this podcast, fix your machines. Anyway, but from a tournament perspective, World Poker Tour is a fantastic machine. Absolutely brilliant, and they refer to it. It's often known as a player's machine. in that the rules are deep, but you've got to pick your shots.
Like Simpsons Pinball Party.
Nothing like it. But it's, obviously so many drop targets, which are fantastic. Lots of really long, deep shots at the back of the playfield that you need, and you need to nail them. And you often find it in some big tournaments because it's a really good test for good players, particularly when they take out the rubbers on the outlanes. But yeah, I would, Daniel, if you can pick up one, whenever you can pick up one that's okay and you can restore it, do it, because as Ryan said, best bang for buck. You can get them at a really good price, and it's a great game, really great game.
Just a last note, I think there's actually one for sale now in Victoria through Pinball Memories. I'm pretty sure I saw the other day. Maybe it's sold. Here it is, World Poker Tour, for the price of $3,650, and it looks pretty decent. It's got, yeah. Anyway, on to the next email. This one is from one Nimo Murati. Hey guys, for the last couple of years, I have been on the fence about whether or not to, scroll past too fast. Get into the pinball scene. As a noob, I know less about Jon Snow than pinball machines. It's a nice Game of Thrones reference. It's intimidating to even choose the first pin, let alone think about complex repairs and the unknown cost of ownership. After listening to the podcast, I checked out Total Nuclear Annihilation, and I really like the 80s style artwork. The fact that the playfield isn't overloaded with graphics and the layout looks a lot like digital pinballs. Think Microsoft 3D Pinball Space Cadet that I grew up with. Okay, so that's his childhood. I mean, my childhood was playing real pins.
Yep.
That's his reference. So there are also a raft of pins that I have really enjoyed playing the last couple of years. Star Trek, because it flows well and it's one of the fairest pins I've ever played.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've ever been hard done, but I think he's talking about drains that, he doesn't get the Ghostbusters.
Yeah. No, I would say, it is actually a very fair game.
Tron seems to have a lot of playability for both short and long play. I'm not sure about long play, but
not on yours.
Has nice flow, layout and graphics are nice, and probably the easiest adventure to follow to get various multi-balls, etc. He also likes The Hobbit. Flat out feels like the nicest piece of hardware and very luxurious wide body. He likes the pop-ups that block repeatable shots. I think he's one of the only people that likes the pop-ups on The Hobbit. And it's one of the easiest pinballs to pull a multi-ball from.
Yeah,
that's
probably true.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. He also likes The Walking Dead. All right, he has 3 questions. Okay. 1, if someone is brand new to pinball, what do I need to know to get into it? Oh my gosh, that's like we could spend like 5 episodes talking about it. But I feel I probably should let you answer this question, but I'll say something quickly. I feel like you need someone to hold your hand through the process to get into pinball, because if you just find pinball and you try and just buy a pinball machine, you're going to get ripped off. You're not going to enjoy it. Things are going to break. It's almost like you need a mentor, I think. How about you, Marty? What do you think about? Well,
it depends on what he's saying. Like, is he brand new to like buying pinballs or just playing pinball?
He doesn't have any pinball machines.
But is he saying if someone is brand new to pinball, what do I need to know to get into it, to actually playing pinball or to owning pinball machines?
I'm pretty sure he's inferring to that he wants to own a pinball machine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, oh God, read forums, but try to get out of the new machine topics. Most pinball forums, so even Pinside is actually fantastic for advice on new pinball machines. There's a lot of resources, and Aussie Arcade as well.
Are you serious, Marty? Can you imagine someone trying to find information on Star Wars and going to Pinside right now?
No, that's what I'm saying. But about owning a machine, I know what you mean. Yeah. But I think if he's asking, getting into, just play lots of games. Go to the Melbourne Silver Ball. We're going to have all the locations. Head2headpinball.com. There's locations there. Just go and play pinball. And you know what? You might not know somebody. Well, luckily you do. You know Ryan that knows that pinball. But go on your own and just have fun. Until you're really comfortable. And a lot of the times, and this is what happened to me many times, is I've actually been playing pinball and actually started talking to the person playing pinball, because they kind of look at you and go, "Oh, you're into pinball too. Oh, okay, cool. We're nerds together." And people just start playing pinball. And I've done that a couple of times, and then asked them to come along to the Melbourne Silverball League tournaments, and I've now known them for a very long time. So
viral advertising. That's how Marty gets people roped in.
Advertising. As I said, like the main purpose for me putting on the tournament was to get more people into pinball. So that's what I do.
That kind of leads on to the second question: is how much is enjoying, how much is joining the local pinball community part of the experience and fun of pinball? And I'll answer that one first,
sure,
if I may. It is probably like 99% of the fun, I think. I mean, there's nothing better than actually playing pinball and enjoying it. You don't need people for that, but bouncing, talking about pinball is fun, and seeing people's different perspective on pinball and seeing how they play, I think, is what makes the hobby a great thing. And people in pinball are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet as well. And that's why I personally enjoy the hobby so much, is I get to hang around cool people.
Yeah, I agree. I many years when I was out on the road for work, I used to just pop into any old place and play a pinball on my own, and I'd have fun doing that. But yeah, it is certainly a lot more fun when you've got other people to witness you doing something great, or even witness you doing something really crap and having a laugh about it. Then you get to talk about pinball, and there's a person that watches the stream, Aaron. Hi Aaron, how are you, mate? That's Taz. And he's just so excited to be able to talk to people about pinball, because he's really passionate about it, but doesn't really have that many friends that are into pinball. So you can tell already that he is a happier person for being able to talk about that stuff and being part of our community.
That's the thing as well, is that if you keep to yourself and you really like pinball, people kind of think you're weird, like... I made the mistake of getting to pinball. I would invite my friends over that weren't into pinball, and some people liked it, some people didn't. And it wasn't like I was looking for gratification or for people to say, "Oh wow, you're really cool now. You have a pinball machine." But you can kind of tell that people think especially when you have more than one. When you open up a room and they haven't seen you for a year, and all of a sudden you have 10 pinball machines. They think you're kind of weird. But if when you can kind of be embraced, I'll use that word, in the community, and you're just a pinball collector. You think you're weird. You're not. There's thousands of people out there that enjoy this thing, and they don't judge you on on your pinball machines. They just like hanging out. So
fun story about that. So well, as you know, I can't even remember what it was, 15th in B Division at Papa, and as a result, it meant that I won some money. And the cheque got lost, but it finally arrived last week, and I went to the bank to bank the cheque. But I couldn't go to the teller. I had to go to somebody because they needed to convert it into Australian dollars. And she was putting it in. She said, "What's the Replay Foundation?" And I went, "Oh God."
You have to explain
dear.
it.
I went, "Okay." So I went to a pinball tournament in America, and she went, "Oh, pinball! I love pinball. I used to play pinball here." And all of a sudden, I'm showing her pictures of Papa and the walkthrough video I did of Papa. She was telling me about these places, and this is just this woman in the bank cashing my check. And so it's those weird moments did
she ask, does pinball still exist?
Yes.
That's the number one thing.
If I had $1,
I didn't know it still existed.
If I had $1 for every time someone said, "Oh, pinball, are they still doing it?" I'd have $24.
Okay.
So
He's been counting.
Anyway, but all I'm saying is, it I don't know. I guess there is a bit of a stigma, and people do feel it's a bit nerdy. But the best way to feel not nerdy about it is to meet other nerds, because they will make you feel comfortable. There you go.
Exactly. And the last part of his email is, if you were choosing your first pin, would you pick a pinball A, that you have played and enjoyed? B, go for something new and unreleased? C, pick a fun, cheaper game you don't plan to keep long term to dip your toe in the water first? What's your answer to that, Marty?
I would... Oh, man, that's really hard, because there's pros and cons for all of them. I would probably go something like, I'm going to try and mix all three of them together. Something that you've played and enjoyed that isn't too expensive and is relatively new. What do you reckon?
Okay, so why they're new? Because I almost agree with everything there, but is that so that he doesn't have to do so many repairs?
Yes.
Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Just because less, I mean, things will go wrong, but less is going to go wrong, and you'll have more people around you that will know how to repair it.
Yeah. I mean, if you have the money, I still don't think you should go super high end. Like, you wouldn't buy a Stern LE or anything. But I think theme is very important in a first pinball machine, because the stuff that I'm fussy about now, like saying a pinball machine is a turd because of the rules and this and that, someone who's new into pinball is not going to know this, and it might take them 6 months to say, oh, hey, my pinball machine plays like shit, but I went and played a pinball on site. Like, I went to play Star Trek and I really love the flow. You don't know what you like in pinball until you play a lot of games, or you play one game a lot, and you can compare it to something else. So I think you have to love the theme of a pinball for your first pinball machine, because you have to enjoy playing it, and I don't think you're going to be upset about how deep the rules are when you're just kind of learning the ropes.
Yeah. Absolutely great. So, on saying that, so a game that you probably played and enjoyed, something that's relatively new and not too expensive, does a pin exist? I would say maybe something like, well, you know what, I was going to say Avatar, because I'm a big fan of Avatar. Only because it's relatively new, it's fun for a while, and it's not too expensive. But I was going to say Iron Man first, because that's probably another one that doesn't go. Yeah.
Okay.
You know better.
My first pinball was Indiana Jones, because 1, I played as a kid. 2, I love Indiana Jones. 3, it's a pretty damn good pinball machine. And 4, I got it for a decent price because I bought it from the guy who mentored me into pinball machines. If you went to buy Indiana Jones now, you're going to be paying about $5,000 more than what I paid for it. So, as long as it's within reason. But Nim also mentions that his dream pinball theme is Rick and Morty forever and ever, and 100 years Rick and Morty, which, if you know Rick and Morty, is a Rick and Morty joke. So there's a lot of people that want a Rick and Morty pinball machine.
I'd love a Rick and Morty machine.
You know what? I remember Ben Heck talking about his machine that he's going to produce for Spooky, which is like, I think their 4th title or their 5th title, will be a licensed theme. And he was kind of talking about it like they're maybe upping the production numbers to maybe like 750 or 1,000. And I have a feeling, this is literally just a hunch, that it's either going to be Futurama, because I know Ben is a big Futurama fan, I believe. But then now that Rick and Morty is kind of, pretty popular, it's more popular than Futurama is right now. Maybe Spooky would be the only people. I don't think Stern would do it. Jesse Jack wouldn't do it. I don't think any of the guys are going to do it. So I think Spooky's your only hope for it.
Come on, Spooky. Make Rick and Morty. It'd be absolutely fantastic. And speaking of music theme, because we did ask people to write into us to, themes that were non-rock. So David M. wrote and said a Michael Jackson pin, saying each album as a mode. Said will never happen. What do you think? You know what? When this came through, I sort of thought, you know what? If you remember the History album, which had that giant gold statue of Michael Jackson looking over his shoulder.
Wasn't it silver?
Or silver. I think there might have been. There might have been a limited edition that was gold. Either way, it was a super LE. Just looking at that imagery, I just thought that as a back glass alone, add stuff to it. You've got the property right there, and again, so
it's
many
silver. I'm a bigger Michael Jackson fan than you.
Maybe
sorry.
It's the DVD. I'm sure there's a gold version. But just so many. The music would be fantastic. So many modes you could make out of some of the songs. But he was saying, each album as a mode. Yeah, I guess so as well. That's pretty tough. I mean,
oh my god, it is. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you for the 3rd time, but there is a gold. Right? There is a gold version of it. I think on the DVD,
which is what I said. So thank you for letting me know what I already knew, and that is that I'm always right. So, and the other one he said was Bon Jovi would be amazing. This is why we have no music pins.
Now, I agree with him on Michael Jackson because I absolutely love Michael Jackson, and but I definitely don't agree with him on Bon Jovi. My first girlfriend was really into Bon Jovi, and things didn't work out, and I've forever hated Bon Jovi since then. So.
Yeah, so John Bon Jovi has got a lot to answer for there.
Yeah.
And then probably our last one from Jason.
Yeah. Okay. Am I reading that? Okay, gents, listening to your episode 2, a really nice conversation dialogue, even when being critical. I had an idea while listening. New games have made 2 main changes. 1, LCD screens. 2, more complex game rules, which are going to confuse new players. So the idea for manufacturers, why not use a large LCD screen in Jersey Jack and Eastern pinball machines to display a beginner's and advanced instructional video as part of the game with the options to play it in attract mode? That's from Jason. Now, what's your opinion on this?
Okay, I absolutely agree. If there's a way that it comes up and it says, push button now to view an instruction, and it goes through it, maybe a bit like the Pinball Arcade shows you the shots and what they need to do. I think that the screen should absolutely do that. But when that came through and I read it, admittedly, I think I was on my 3rd coffee of the day, so I was a little bit hyper as it was. And I just thought to myself, do you know what they actually could do? And it was, I guess, similar to Pinball Arcade, but they could actually open up like a challenge mode where rather than it being, instructional, they actually...
You know this exists, Marty, what you're about to say.
Which one?
Just keep on going.
Okay.
I don't want to...
So, well, basically it is, level 1, hit 3 warp ramps, right? And then that progresses you to level 2, hit the pop bumpers 30 times. That will take you to level 3, which is then do 5 orbits. Then, you know what I mean? Like actually having these different.
This sounds like the wizard mode on Circus Voltaire. That's what you've described.
Is that? Well, obviously I've never been to it to know.
Okay, yeah, it's you have to prove yourself to join the circus, and there's about 4 stages, and then you get to join the circus, and you get to reveal who the ringmaster is, because it's a mystery the entire game. I won't spoil it for you, but the answer is on the back glass.
I'm going to look up now. But do you understand what I mean? Like you could actually then just be continually extending the challenge levels further and further.
Now, Jersey Jack has done something similar to this. It's called Pindemption. Do you know what that is, Marty?
I always thought Pindemption was just the ability to have ticket machines on them. But keep going.
No, okay, so that's like a ticket dispenser thing. I think even Stern machines have that. I won some tickets on Walking Dead and the Gold Coast. So Pindemption is a trademark. It's a trademark word and software mode that basically you can buy a dongle for JJP machines. I'm not sure if the Hobbit.
You can buy a what?
Is out yet. A dongle. It's like a USB stick. It's a USB stick. It's basically the software is already in there. Your Hobbit and your Wizard of Oz already has this software in there, but you cannot. If you go through the settings, you can actually see it enable Pindemption, right? But it won't. It's grayed out because me and you don't have this little dongle that I think it's about $150 or $200.
Yeah,
I'm making that number up, but it's around
$199 US. I'm reading on Pinside.
Okay. Yeah. And basically, you put it in, you can enable it, and I put some serious thought into buying one of these things just for my kids. I don't want to install a ticket machine in there, but you can win virtual tickets because basically it dumbs down the rule set, and certain things will happen. Like you as soon as you put money into the machine, if it's a coin operated machine, it'll start the game straight away and also launch the ball for you. And to kind of tie into Jason's question, I don't know if it definitely helped for some people, but there are so many people that complain to me about, I don't know how to play the Hobbit, and I have actually had a friend buy a Hobbit and not know how to get into an Arkenstone mode for a month until I showed him the video that I made on how to do it. And I said, dude, it's in attract mode. Like if you look at the attract mode screen, it tells you exactly what you need to do. So I sometimes when the answer isn't right in front of you, like people still will just, unless it's totally intuitive, it's still going to be hard. Back to Pindemption. Basically, it dumps down the rule set, and you might have simple tasks like it might let you melt the witch straight away, or it might say, the spinning house, a couple of times. It's really simple stuff, not exactly like stages that you were describing that might lock you out and you have to stay at level 1. There's a couple of things going on at the same time, and if you do them, like it's a timed game, so you can lose your ball 10 times in a minute and you're still playing. So it doesn't make you feel dumb. So it's like, say, like I think you can set it in the settings, but it might default to around a 3-minute game, and that's kind of gives you the satisfaction you need. And it's trying to make pinball kind of more friendly in an arcade setting when people are, there's people that don't know pinball. Yeah. That Elvis that I saw on the weekend, that was in like a redemption center, and obviously it had a lot of plays, probably been there for 10 years, but no one was playing it. No one played the credit after I finished the game.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have a big flashing sign saying win tickets, then kids don't care about it.
My kids won't. They just won't even touch anything unless there's tickets and the ability to cash 500 tickets in for a lollipop.
Oh God, it's so bad. But the worst thing about it is I've got 2 girls, and they can't make their mind up. And when you go to the Gold Coast and you say, "Hey, choose this prize," you've got 125 tickets. They just sit there for about 20 minutes. But
no, I know. I give them a 30-minute whatever is a game card.
Yeah.
And then it's 45 minutes for them to choose. And I've got 3 girls, and it's just hard work. Anyway.
So I think it'll help some people, but I think, as I said, unless something's really intuitive or you dumb things down to... How many times have you seen someone in an arcade put money into a pinball machine and then not know how to start the game? Where there's a flashing... It's intuitive to us, but they don't know how to start the game, and it's just like, come on!
I know.
And I always go up and help them, but I give them 15 seconds, and they sit there and they clack the flippers because they've seen people playing pinball machines in movies and pop culture, but they haven't actually seen them press the start button.
Yeah. So I'm different to you. I just sort of stand there lurking in the shadows, waiting for them to walk away so I can get their free credit. But I get what you're saying. Like, so that is so it's starting the game, so it makes it more accessible. Typical me, tournament player, I want it to make it harder, but it goes back to them saying, the machine, the game needs to be, easy for new players and harder, and I think that's the way you can scale the difficulty, by actually having some easy objectives to start with and then moving them up. And you could even keep your stage in between games, so a couple of days later you come back and go, right, I want to now knock off stage 14, which is I've got to get 7 warp ramps in a row on Star Trek, for example.
It'd be funny if it was like those hard video games where you would get a code after you get to a hard stage and you can continue on where you left off. No, they'll never do that in pinball because it's all about kind of keeping you addicted. That's exactly. We've got one more email. We'll just read the second half of it from Ronald Cascella. Okay, so he recommended some people for us to interview, and his question was, where do you think the ideal location for pinball is today? Obviously somewhere where people have time to stop and play, for example, airport, barcade, bowling alley. Pinball is really hard to find here in Sydney. I was recently in Chicago, New York, Toronto, and a few public places to play pinball. Most children these days don't even know what pinball is. We must think of solutions to keep pinball alive. Yeah,
agreed. Because, for the most part, pinball machines are in bars. Really, they're in bars, and we talked about it, before. Like, if you go into, so I've got a time zone next to my work. It's honestly a 2-minute walk from door to door, and I walk past. There's a Star Trek in the door, and there's Batman, Dark Knight, and an AC/DC down the back, and the place is absolutely packed with kids, and no one is playing the pinball machines.
Yeah.
So is it about the location of the pinball, or is it the pinball itself that needs to change to get new people into it?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before with Pindemption. Like, Jack's trying something because he knows that the future. I mean, all the pinball manufacturers can ride the wave of the resurgence of pinball because people played pinball when they were young. They've now grown up. They have enough money to buy their own pinball machines. They have disposable cash. But the people that are playing pinball now are those people and, the children of those people. And it's not going to grow, I don't think, unless it's, unless there's themes that kids can enjoy, and unless it's kind of out in the public. And I don't want to sound negative, but I just don't think that, with mobile phones and iPods and people can get satisfaction. I mean, people play the dumbest games on the mobile phone, and they're addicted to it because it gives them that relief. Why do people play games? They want maybe an adrenaline rush. They want escape from reality.
Sure.
It's now ingrained into people that if they can play games, they can play these stupid addictive, Farmville and Candy Crush on their phone, and they're $1 billion apps. Pinball is harder. You really have to push someone to enjoy it, and it can take over their life once they enjoy it. But how do you take the first step of why is it someone that hasn't enjoyed pinball in their youth, say like a 40-year-old dad, for example, why would he in an arcade center say, hey, let's go and put some money in this pinball machine if he's never played pinball before himself? It almost has to be theme, right? Like, it has to be a theme that people,
Well, that's why I'm really keen to see. I'd just love to be fly on the wall, have a look in an arcade like a Time Zone or a Playtime with dialed in, and just to see what kids' reactions would be walking past this thing that's got a mobile phone, got some drones, got that crazy electric guy, whether they would actually want to play that more because it is a theme that I believe appeals more to them.
The biggest hurdle is to get them to put the coin in and play, because they might enjoy playing it, but walking past a pinball machine, I mean, it's a box, right? Like, if you take your kids to arcades, there are so many more things that are more attractive to a kid than a box of lights. Literally, like, there's a big purple dinosaur. There's a claw machine with prizes, and they know how that works. They're like, "Daddy, give me more money." So
they don't care how it works. They just it drives me nuts when my daughters take me to these places, because they will literally just push one button, watch something happen for 5 seconds, and then do it again. I'm like, how is that possibly fun? But it's not. And
it's the hope of...
It is gambling for children.
Gambling for children, yeah. And that's what Candy Crush and all these games are. It's gambling for kids.
It is.
So... And that's I think that's another topic for another day, I think, is that society is moving more towards a... What do they call it? Pay to win kind of thing, Like, you can play a game for free, and we'll get you sucked into it. But if you want to be good at it, you got to pay some money for some upgrades and things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas pinball is really a game about skill, and human beings are now kind of being wired for instant gratification and a pat on the back saying, "Oh, hey, you just played the first game of Clash of Clans and you just took down this," Whereas pinball is brutal. If your first game of pinball is a game of Iron Man or something, you're going to think, well, pinball freaking sucks. Like, what happens? So I think it's a big uphill battle, but I think that we can talk for a whole episode about that. And
I think we probably need to wrap it up, because we thought it was going to go for 15, 20 minutes, and it's gone for a while. Probably wrapping it up with what's coming up this week. And you know what? Speaking of things that are fun, a particular tournament style that is a lot of fun is pin golf. Have you ever played pin golf before?
I kind of know what it is. Well, I do now after asking asking Jeff. But pin golf. Maybe I should explain it, because I think if I can explain it, then people will understand it, because I'm not a tournament player. But
you've got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, pin golf. Instead of trying to get a high score, you're trying to achieve something on a game. So I think the games are set up on, like 9 ball or unlimited balls, more balls on 3. And you might say, okay, we'll start Sparky multi-ball. And if you do it on your first ball, then it's like one, like in golf. Like, if the par for that pin is set at 3, then you've just got -2 on that pin, and whoever has the lowest score at the end of the tournament wins.
Yep.
So instead of trying to get a high score, it's trying to get to a certain objective.
Correct. And sometimes it can be a score that you need to get. So it might be 100 million on a particular game, and whether you get that first, second, third, fourth, or fifth ball, that will be your stroke. And then other machines, they can do it like, you're right, start Sparky multi-ball, or go to level 3 modes on Star Trek, for example.
Reach Valinor on...
Yes, it could be.
And if you don't achieve that goal, I think that there's like a max score, right? Like you don't get 20...
Yeah, five is pretty much usually... If you don't... And sometimes they can be on 3-ball, and if you don't get it, you'll just get 5, a stroke of 5.
So what happens when you play a 4-player game on these things and everyone gets on the first ball? Does someone just sit there and just plunge the balls away? Is that what happens?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Once they've got it, they walk away.
That's just like the lowest... Is that the lowest job in pinball, is plunging the balls away? Is
Sure.
that like yeah? Okay.
but as I'm saying, the best thing about it is if you are somebody that's like, oh, I don't know, it's really competitive and I don't think I'm going to have a lot of fun, pin golf is a lot of fun because you'll get to play a lot of games. Usually you have to play 18 games, like 18 holes. And it's fun because it's not about having to just have this really high scoring ability. It's just being able to do it maybe on your first, second, third, fourth or fifth ball.
And where is it happening and when is it happening, Marty?
Okay, so there is a new location. So at the Golden Fleece Hotel, there is now a new pinball club started up called the Argonauts Pinball Club. And I'm trying to remember the address. In fact, it's on our website, head2headpinball.com. I can't believe
People will look it up. We don't have to give the exact address, but
So,
it's in South
Melbourne.
And there's parking that you don't have to pay for right there. So
Yeah.
it's a good location, I think. And
It is,
the
and they've
guy
got
who
great machines.
started it is his name is Jeff, and he's absolutely poured. The pins that he's put there are not pins that people usually cite. They're his personal collection, plus people have now added to that, but they're all limited editions or premiums, and they're absolutely in immaculate condition. So it's one of the best places I think to play pinball in Australia, and he's just kind of getting started and adding to it, and it'd be good to watch the growth of that location. Yeah,
and so this Saturday they've got pin golf happening as a bit of a soft launch to the ongoing tournaments they're going to have there. So that's 4:00 this Saturday.
I think I actually might make it down to that because I'm going to be in the city for some football. So whoever's there, say hi to Riza, and yeah.
Awesome. I reckon that's it. Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
There's one more. There's one more. There's the ACT Pinball Championship.
That's right.
I don't have any of the details. So if you don't have
it,
we're screwed. Yeah.
Okay, so I did see this. So the 2017 ACT Pinball Championship. So ACT is the Australian Capital Territory. So that is where Canberra is, our capital of Australia. So Saturday, 19th of August. For qualifying, and finals on Sunday the 20th of August. And if you're lucky, you'll see Rod, Gaz and Pintech Stevie there, our good mates from Pinhead's Pinball podcast. And it's good fun. So for those that are, the other side of the world, from Melbourne to Canberra is about a 9-hour drive?
Yeah, it's doable.
And I don't know what it is from
9-hour drive. Wait a second. No, it's not. It's way less than that. It's about 5 or so hours.
Okay.
Keep on talking, and I'm going to check.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's directly. It was meant to have been directly in between Sydney and Melbourne. And there's a great pinball community, great scene up there. A lot of good machines will be there. Yeah, it should be a good event.
It's a 7-hour drive.
Well, there you go. Not too far. So, anyway, have a look at their Facebook page. I think you just look up ACT Pinball Championship.
Talking about Facebook.
Yes.
You can also check out Head2Head Pinball on Facebook.
Can you?
Yes, and you can check us out on Twitter, Head2Head Pinball. But basically, if you go to Facebook or you go to our website, which is headpinball.com, everything is linked from there. And please, if you have any feedback or questions, please email us at head2headpinball@gmail.com. And that almost wraps it up, Marty.
Well, I think it completely wraps it up. So
yeah.
I may see you during the week for another challenge. I'll be streaming Wednesday, and I'll be streaming The Hobbit, because now The Hobbit is back home. I am going to stream The Hobbit on the Melbourne Silverball League Twitch page. So please come and watch me get drunk again.
All right, guys. Catch you next week.
Till next week.
Am I singing us out again?
Yeah, I love your songs at the end. Go.
Yeah, you want to get swifty and shit on the floor.